Folks are streaming in. Welcome, welcome, Zoom participants. Welcome. Glad you could join us today. We'll get started here in just a moment, and we are in the process of going live on Facebook, and I'm just waiting for confirmation on the Facebook side. I think we're good. Live now. And welcome, everybody. Welcome, Facebook participants. We're live on Facebook. Welcome, Zoom participants. We're live on Zoom. And we are here for another Tea with Lee today. I'm glad you could join us. And we will get started in just a moment. While you're filtering in, please go right ahead and drop into the chat room on Zoom or jump into the comments on Facebook and let us know where you're tuning in from. But make sure that little drop down says panelists and attendees, and that would be very helpful. That way everybody can see everybody's comments. Otherwise it just says panelists and then we can see it, but nobody else can. And if you're on Facebook and you want to come over to Zoom and join the party over here, you're welcome to. And if you do that, there will be a link somewhere in the comments appearing underneath whatever you're watching soon. So you're certainly welcome to do that. We're going to let a few more folks filter in here as the numbers continue to go up, and then we'll dive in and get started. Folks coming in from all over. We got Chile, Montana. Yep, that's a chilly place. Norwalk, Ohio, Brazil, Holland, UK, Spain, Pittsburgh, PA, sunny and beautiful. Oh, good for you guys. Lake Worth, Florida, Portland, Oregon, Paris, France, Seattle, Hampshire, UK. That sounded like Seattle, Hampshire, UK, but it's Seattle and Hampshire, UK. Two different things. Newport Beach, California, Northern Ireland, Victoria, Vancouver Island, beautiful BC. Holland, British Columbia, Virginia, Oslo, Norway. We got people in from all over the world. This is great. Aloha from Hawaii. Hi, Lucinda. Good to see you.
You don't hear cold and chilly from Hawaii or Brazil very often.
No, what's up with that?
No. It is cold and chilly here, though, in Santa Cruz today.
Frost in the morning.
Yeah, it was
first one.
It's sunny, but it's feels like the seasons have changed.
Yep, it sure does, and they sure have. Well, Mr. Holden, you're looking good today. You chilling out. You got your tea corner going. It looks like your internet's a little more stable today. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I think so. I have no kids here soaking up the internet juice, and my tea corner really came together kind of organically with this, Jing Qi Shen calligraphy from Lorelei, our good friend and fellow Qigong teacher and master dancer and calligraphist. And this beautiful little setup here is from Shen's Gallery. It's an antique Chinese store here in Santa Cruz.
Very cool.
Antique. It's just very cool to have this little tea come together.
That's
check
awesome.
out my tea table. Just look at this, everybody. It's got a river running right through it. I felt like it was very much in the flow. We got my Tao Te Ching books here, and today I have about 4 pots of tea working from, you know how they just keep accumulating? You're like, oh, that's so good from 3 days ago. I'm just going to keep pouring hot water in it.
Yep, keep it alive. Well, speaking of Shen's Gallery, today is the maiden voyage for my new teapot from Shen's Gallery.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, my goodness. Fantastic.
It is officially now the smallest teapot I have. Look how tiny this thing is. It's like...
Wow, that is
smaller than my cheekbone.
I love that little one.
Isn't that cute? Little green thing. It's got a little bit of like gold flecks in the clay. I don't know if people can see it, but it's just a nice little tiny little pot. And I like having a few tiny little pots around because then I can drink very special teas I can't afford to really drink in tiny, tiny, tiny quantities so that I can afford to drink them because there are some very rare and expensive teas. And this one came with this this handle tie. I don't know if you've seen those before. I don't think I'm a fan. I think I'm probably just going to take it off.
Yeah, I don't like those ties. I feel like you have to be do enough Qigong where you're not going to drop the tea lid. That's the goal.
Should be easy, but it's not. Well, folks, if you're just joining us, please on Zoom, jump into the chat room. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And today, also, please make sure the drop down above the message box is set to all panelists and attendees, not just panelists, so that everybody can see you. And you're welcome to talk amongst yourselves while we're doing our thing. And if you haven't already, jump in and let us know what kind of tea you're drinking today. And we'll get started here in a moment. A little bit later, we're going to do question and answer. And then after that, we're going to have a little bit of a quick session where a few of the attendees can come up in person and ask a question on video. And then we'll finish up at about 11:30 Pacific time. It's a little after 10 now. So that's pretty much the plan. For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Ben. I'm the co-founder of Holden Qigong. Lee and I have been working together for several years now, building up Holden Qigong, making all this stuff that he's been teaching for so long available to people around the world through the power of the internet and technology and so forth. So it's been a great journey, and I'm very gratified to be sharing all of this great knowledge with you, and for us to have wonderful tea sessions like this where you get a chance to ask Lee your questions and get some insights and just sort of take a little break from whatever else you were doing today. What are you drinking today, Mr. Holden?
Hey, I was just telling you about this wonderful
4-pack of teapots.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on which one I'm pouring water into. I am drinking just a beautiful tea. I reconnected with a friend of mine. He lives in Yunnan in China. He married one of the villagers there. He has a great story. He went to China for his master's degree in ecology because as Ben has been talking about, in Yunnan, there's a very specific soil and ecology there that allows these teas and these the pu'er tea trees to grow. And he became so fascinated by the whole tea culture that he ended up moving there, getting married, and becoming a tea master. And so now he's growing and commissioning from the villagers in this area special teas. So he just sent me one. It's a 2006 Imperial Tea, and it is wonderful. I'm really loving this particular. He sent me a whole sample of his teas, and I just love this one. It's a nice dark, rich show, which means composted or cooked, as they call it, tea, and it feels great. So I'm really liking the story behind this tea. The villagers that have picked the leaves, and then it arriving here and being part of my new tea ritual on my new tea table. I'm excited.
Very cool. So Imperial Tea, is that like a Gong Ting style with the super tiny leaves, loose leaf?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's loose leaf, really tiny leaves. How did you?
Those are great because they come in super dark, super fast.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it.
I often like that.
Such a tea geek, I can say Imperial Tea, and you know the size of the leaf.
That was my guess, but I was prepared to be wrong.
Right.
Great. Well, I'm drinking Human Brick. I think I drank this on one previous tea with Lee. I know you like this one, Lee.
I love that one.
Human Brick is aptly named by the Taoists who make these teas, and it's paired nicely with two other teas, Earth Brick and Heaven Brick. And so these are old 80s aged Sheng teas. So unlike this composting and ripening process Lee was talking about, that tends to make the tea affordable because there's so much demand for old tea and there's not much old tea. This is one of the old teas that has been very carefully tended and aged over decades to become just beautiful. And one of the things that we found when drinking these teas, again, on rare occasion and only in tiny teapots, usually for me, because I put a few dollars worth in here and still get the full experience. But one of the things we found is that they really are true to their name. And just like in Taoism, the human is the bridge between heaven and earth. the human brick actually really is this wonderful horizontal energy, whereas the earth brick is like instantly your bubbling springs wake up in your feet and you start really feeling that earth energy. And the heaven brick is a little spacey. Like sometimes I need to drink very grounding tea after drinking heaven brick because it is so shen, you're just out. So here I am drinking human brick today because if I drank heaven brick today, the rest of the day would be a waste. I've got a lot of work to do today. Human brick's a good one for that. So I'm also trying to figure out which of these two little cups is going to be the right amount for my tiny little teapot. So it's a fun day, new stuff today. Although these are old cups. This is a Celadon cup, really beautiful crackle glaze, you know, they call it. And so I don't know if you can see that, but as the tea stains the crackles inside, you get these nice little spider web effects with the tea stain, which I love. So that's what I'm doing. I see a lot of folks are drinking various kinds of tea. We got some Dragonwell and Yogi tea, of course, absolute classic and one of my favorite herbals. Sipping delicious pu'er. You're right there with us. Chai organic green tea. Got some Rishi tea. Rishi Tea Company is a wonderful tea company and one of my favorites for just sort of broader, you know, oolongs and black teas and so forth. Oh no, I'm sorry. Reishi, R-E-I, is the mushroom. Excellent. So, Mr. Holden, let's settle in. I'm going to get this tea going, and you're going to help us get present and get started with a little ritual, and then we'll start in on the Q&A. How about that?
Sounds good to me. Let's do a little tea meditation. Why don't you just pour yourself a cup of tea? And tea is a great way to practice mindfulness and to set intention, an embodied intentional practice where mindfulness and presence might be the intention, but we can also do a bit of Qigong work where we're going to be clearing and cleansing and using the tea as a cleanser, perhaps with a breathing exercise. And one of the teachings that I was taught by a Buddhist monk, and she was just an incredible tea master, and they had their monastery way up high in the mountains. And this was a ritual I learned with jasmine tea, an old jasmine tea that was just delicious. But I've applied it to pu'er as well. And what you do is you smell the tea, and smelling the tea is a way just to get present. And it's also a breathing practice. So you're going to take in a long, slow, deep breath. Smell the tea. And then when you exhale, I want you to just turn over your left shoulder. This is the heart side of the body. So you out through the mouth. And this is a way to clear old energy, to clear stale energy or any energy you might have picked up that you no longer need. And it's especially good little ritual when there's a lot of activity or chaos or stress going on around us. In which we can find ourselves in with a pandemic or a political climate, that we just let it all go and come back to the present moment, come back to who we are authentically. So do that 3 times. Take a deep breath and then exhale out through the mouth over your left shoulder, and inhale, exhale. Good. Do it one more time. Exhale, long exhale, letting go. And then just bring your teacup to your heart center and do a little circular motion here at the heart center, a little circular motion, and just bring some attention to what you're grateful for. Something in the future that you want to draw in. So you can just put your attention on something you want to create later today, this week, in your life, and the gratitude for it to already be present is one of those key things to transform energy from a possibility into an actuality. We just do a little movement around the heart center, and you bring in gratitude as if it's already happened. And just feel grateful for this beautiful thing in your life that you want to draw in, but you make it real in the present moment. And then take a sip. Then I'll toast to the possibilities becoming actualities and living with kindness and compassion.
Beautiful. Cheers.
Cheers.
My tea tastes like clay. The thing about these pots is they take a little breaking in. Yeah. That's great, Lee. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And I think that's just such a great way to go. Oh, look at this. We have somebody drinking Ling Tsong Old Tree. That was what I was drinking this morning, actually, from Hidden Peak. Good choice, Vicky. I like that one a lot. So here is what we're going to do next, everybody. We're going to dive into the Q&A period. So if you're in Zoom, you can go to the Q&A button to ask your question. Don't put it in the chat room. We won't see it, but we have a Q&A button, and we're going to get through as many as we can. We're going to be then a little later pulling over questions from Facebook. If you have questions and you're on Facebook, you can put them in the comments thread there, and Zach will proxy those over to us later and make sure that we get as many of those as we can as well. And then later, we will be calling up anybody who wants to raise their hand and potentially come up on camera and see Lee and actually ask your question directly. We'll do a few of those. We usually don't have time for more than a couple. And I will ask people to raise their hands then, not now. So don't do that yet. Now is the hit the Q&A button phase of what we're doing. So feel free to jump in and start throwing your questions in the Q&A box here in Zoom or in the comment thread over there in Facebook. Wow, Delilah, you've got an amazing tea going. Holy basil, ashwagandha, lemon balm, rosemary, orange peel, spearmint, and oat straw. You are an advanced herbal tea specialist who's over there. I'm guessing you've mixed that up yourself. Impressive. Okay, let's see. Mr. Holden, do you want to jump into Q&A and get started?
Yeah, some good questions coming up already. Let me do a few of these, and we'll get started with Clemencia's question. When tapping on the arms and legs, why do we tap down the arms on the inside? And in the legs, we go down on the outside. That is a great question. And we did talk about this in our acupressure workshop yesterday, got a little bit more into Chinese medicine and Chinese medicine theory and where the meridians go and where the points are along these meridians. It was a really fun day to dive into the crossover between Qigong and self-healing through acupressure. Now, meridians, they start here in the chest and the abdomen. And then the yin meridian. So from the chest and the abdomen, the energy is going to emerge from the organs and then flow down the inside of the arms and come up the outside of the arm. So yin on the inside and then yang on the outside. It's going to come up to your head right here. So now we need the energy of the head to be carried downward through the body. So the yang meridians of the legs actually carry the energy down the back and sides of the body, down the backs of the legs. And so that's why we're slapping down the backs of the legs, because this follows the flow of the energy. It goes down the backs of the legs all the way to the feet. And then from the feet, it comes up the yin meridians of the legs back to the chest. And so it completes its circuit with that one lap. So for example, lung meridian comes down to the thumb and the large intestine brings it up to the head. Then the stomach meridian brings it down the outside of the legs to the feet, and the spleen meridian, the yin of the legs, comes back to the viscera and the chest. And then it repeats. The next yin organ of the arms comes down, and it'll create that cycle again. So think of it as one energy flowing through different pathways. It's like different rivers, but all the rivers have water in them, H2O, that's the Qi. But there's different pathways that irrigate the land and the earth, and that's what these meridians are doing. And so when we're doing Qigong, we're following the flow of those meridians by slapping down the inside and then coming up the outside. So that's why we do it that way.
Makes a lot of sense. See Victoria saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry I missed that workshop." Yes, it's we do record them all. So Thursday, I believe it will be available in our store as a replay. The Acupuncture and Meridians for Self-Healing workshop. And it was great. It really was a deep dive into several principles behind it, and then also a bunch of great points specifically for self-healing. And then some references to some reference materials you can use to find other points for whatever might ail you specifically. So it was
Hey,
great.
Ben, I'm going to correct you because it was not an acupuncture.
Oh, what did I say? Acupuncture?
Acupuncture for
What
self-healing.
is this, my first day?
I think we would have to send out needles like a starter kit to everybody to stimulate their nerve endings, but I don't think that would be appropriate.
Let's not do that, okay?
Acupressure. You have your tools right here.
That's right. I love it. You got your tools right here. Yeah. So it turns out that Fonzie was an acupressurist.
Right? I love it. You didn't even know it.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Somebody's asking, is it good to do Qigong or Tai Chi late at night? They're also asking if I know a monk fruit sweetener, and I don't know monk fruit sweetener. I've tried it before, but I don't know much about it, so we might have to just look that up. But
I actually know a little bit about it because I don't eat any sugar or any other high glycemic index sweeteners anymore. And so I started experimenting a little bit. And what I found is that I don't care for the Lakanto monk fruit sweetener because it's actually mostly based on erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol that doesn't make me feel very good personally. And so I have found for liquids, the Dragon Herbs Sweet Fruit Drops is a pure monk fruit sweetener. And that's really all I need is that. Occasionally put it in some tea, some herbal teas. So that's my experience with that particular sweetener. Sugar alcohols never resonate that well with my body. Maltitols and erythritols and all those types of things. So, but anyway, that's not the main question. The main question is what time? What time?
Good to know, Ben. Thanks. Okay, so is it good to do late at night? And that's a very personal question. I personally like to do Qigong at night. Are you a night owl or are you a morning person? So if you are a morning person, then you might choose differently. So there are exercises that you can do at night to promote good sleep or to clear stress. So I would recommend a stress clearing night routine and a morning like charge up. So the recommendation in Qigong is to start your day with a lightning flash of vitality. And that is a particular kind of Qigong routine. And then end your day with some purging, some cleansing, some clearing, some stress relieving exercises that'll take tension out of your mind and body so that you rest really well. And so, in our programs, I would say we have a great sleep workshop that you could try. The healing sounds are always a go-to for sleep. They clear emotional stress and then bring in, just this deep relaxation. So sleep is interesting in Qigong. It's a yin energy, and you want to have a surplus of yin energy for good sleep so that you don't wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. It takes you into a nice deep rest until the time you actually want to get up. And so in that sleep workshop, we talk a lot about sleep, cultivating yin energy, and how to really restore and rest, get good sleep, rejuvenating sleep, which is very important. And we did that sleep class on the video class subscription not too long ago that was very popular. So I might do that again as we come into winter to really work on our yin energy. And here's one from Patrick. How are Qigong and Tai Chi similar or different? So we get this question a lot. And Tai Chi is a form of Qigong. Qigong is an ancient practice that has 3 branches. And it does have a martial branch, a medical branch, and a spiritual branch. And Tai Chi is a martial practice. Every movement in that Tai Chi form has martial application. And nowadays, people do Tai Chi for very similar reasons as they would do Qigong for health, energy cultivation, relaxation. And people aren't really doing Tai Chi for martial purposes. Although it's a great practice, like push hands and whatnot are wonderful ways to use these principles maybe into everyday life, because how do we use these principles of relaxation and flow when we're facing adversity? And Tai Chi can be a great tool to use for that. The nice thing about Qigong practice is that it's very accessible. It's easy to learn. You're jumping right into the principles of practice right away. Tai Chi is great, but you have to memorize forms usually. You have to memorize one movement, then another movement, then another movement. So it's not quite as accessible. Sometimes it takes 6 months to a year to learn the form before you really start diving into the energies and the principles of the practice. So I often recommend that people start with Qigong, work with Qigong, and then get into Tai Chi and do a combination of Qigong and Tai Chi together if that's something that you want to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And Meg asks, can Lee talk about the third eye and how it relates to Qigong and meridians? I sure can, Meg. So
yeah, Lee actually also has a slightly overlapping question here, and that's Lee's had a daily yoga practice for several years and added Qigong to it since joining our subscription. So wondering if you have any questions about how Qigong specifically fits in with the Patanjali's Eightfold Path, but also in particular, there's questions about the nadis and meridians and how the Chinese and the Indian overlap. So since we're talking about the third eye, and that's often referred to in the Hindu and Vedic sutras and so forth, I figured maybe we could also talk in general about the similarity between the energy system of the body that the Indian references and the yogic texts refer to, and the Chinese.
Great. Well, you know, I was just talking with Robert Peng, who's a friend of mine. He's a Qigong master as well. And he was saying that his master called the third eye the first eye. And in Chinese medicine, this point here is called yin tong, and it's an extra point. And yin tong translates as the hall of impressions. And this hall of impressions is where we bring in all our perceptual energy. It has a lot to do with our intuition, our insights. And so we might see the world or hear or see something or have somebody tell us something. And our perception is like a filter that brings in and sorts information based on our belief systems and our previous thoughts. So this area of perception has a lot to do with how we think and what energy we allow into our minds. And I always find it fascinating. Let's say if you're car shopping for Volkswagen Bugs, and now when you go out into the world, you see them all over the place. Or if you've just had a baby, all of a sudden you see babies everywhere. And this perceptual lens, and that we find ourselves, is what filters in information from the outside world. So this area here, third eye, what it does, it also spiritually relates to your pineal gland, which I find fascinating. There's a lot of research on the pineal gland and how when we bring energy through the pineal gland, there's small crystals there that operate from, in physiological terms, they call them piezoelectric. That means under pressure, they generate electricity. In the same way, your bones under pressure have this piezoelectric quality. And so when we bring energy through that area, whether it's from a Kundalini yoga perspective or a yogic breathing exercise or a Qigong exercise or microcosmic orbit, it stimulates these glands. And in fact, in Chinese medicine, the area in there was called the crystal room. And some, 3,000 years later, they discovered that there's actually crystals in your pineal gland that under pressure start to vibrate, which is so fascinating how our, Western medicine and our Eastern traditions are really coalescing and coming together in unique ways. Basically, when this area is open, when we bring energy here, we are tuned in to a deeper level of perception. We often call it intuition. And we see life as it is rather than as we want it to be. That's why the master was calling it the first eye, because we might see things, but it's really what we allow to come in through our perceptual lens from this kind of thinking mind. And so as we see life clearly, we become tuned into what is, and then we wake up to the present moment, and we wake up to who we are in the present moment. So there's a lot to say about the third eye. If you want more information, I would recommend the Microcosmic Orbit workshop, because we do a lot of work with bringing the energy there and accessing and awakening that center.
That's excellent. And just while we're in the sort of realm of energy centers and this overlap, in addition to the question about the Hindu and yogic traditions, Michael Klausner is also asking, what are the main differences between Tai Chi and Qigong, which you covered, but also how does one decide which they should learn, and is it okay to combine the two? And what about yoga and its relationship to the aforementioned? So that's actually several questions, but I feel like we're about halfway done with them.
Yeah. Okay. So what did he say? What about yoga and what?
Yeah. Well, just real quick. Yes, it's okay to combine Tai Chi and Qigong. People often do. They really are kind of one and the same. And Lee will frequently go through kind of a mini Tai Chi set during class, every so often. But then as far as yoga and its relationship to Qigong, and also I think the other question about the Patanjali's Eightfold Path and the yogic traditions and the energy system of the body in Yoga or Ayurveda and Qigong. Perhaps we could speak to all of those at once.
Okay, good question, right? I mean, these are deep questions, and
Sure.
we have very ancient systems of energy medicine, coming from India and China, and a lot of information was shared back and forth through Tibet. So we have Chinese medicine working with energy and meridian lines and pathways, and we have Ayurvedic medicine and Indian yoga talking about chakras and energy anatomy that are closely related, but not exactly the same. And even though the philosophies and the theories are very similar, the practices can be quite different. So for body work and healing techniques, in the Vedic tradition, you might look at lifestyle and massage therapy and oils and particular sets of herbs. And in Chinese medicine, we're going to look a little bit more at points and acupressure and other kinds of herbs that grew in China, even though they're both focused on the prana, Ayurvedic, or the Qi, Chinese medicine. So similar practices in theory and different methodologies to meet those intentions. You could look at, movement practices like yoga, which are going to focus more, especially these days, on stretching the body, and where you're going to look at Qigong, which is going to focus a little bit more on moving the body in a flow. And both have benefits and relevance and can work together synergistically, in my opinion. So you're going to find differences in opinions about that. Keep yoga, keep Qigong. But what we find is that a lot of these Qigong practices incorporate Indian yogic techniques, pranayama techniques. In fact, one of the most famous Qigong masters was an Indian yogi called Bodhidharma. And Bodhidharma was instrumental in starting Shaolin temples, which was a cross between Buddhist practices, Chinese martial arts, Qigong energy cultivation, and Indian pranayama. And so I'm under the impression, let's do what works for where we are now in our lives. And they all have relevance for helping us to lead healthier, happier lives. If you want to do some yoga and incorporating that into Qigong practice, here's what I would do, and here's what I would recommend, is that you warm up with some Qigong, like knocking on the door of life, arm spirals, these warm-up exercises that bring heat and circulation into the body. You do some yogic stretching, do whatever yoga you want to do, and then end with flows. And that's a nice way to synergize some of these practices. And in fact, in Qigong, that's very similar to what we would do in a Qigong practice. In my particular style of teaching, we'd warm up, we'd stretch, and then we'd flow. And if you like to do some yoga and incorporate that, then you could just bring it into that particular practice. Or quite simply do your yoga in the morning, do a nice set of Qigong in the afternoon or the evening, emphasizing in the afternoon and evening more flows to kind of unwind and relax as a moving meditation.
Excellent answer. There you have it, Michael and all. I think, by the way, I just wanted to let everyone know, we're just scrolling through the thing and flowing through and things are jumping out at us. We never get to more than about a quarter of the questions that people ask, or maybe less, during the Q&A. If you don't get your question answered and it's something you don't want to save for the next one or for the next live class, if you come to those as a subscriber, then please do feel free to write into support@holdenqigong.com. In many cases, the support team already knows the answer because people have asked these questions before. And then in other cases, we'll make sure it gets over to Lee and eventually we get you an answer to your question. So please don't worry about it if you don't get your question answered here and now. There are lots of ways in our world these days where you can ask your question and eventually get the answer that you seek. So also, by the way, you mentioned yoga and Qigong and the combination of the two. And also, I think it's probably a good opportunity to answer Anne's question about the Tao Yin class. Are you doing an online Tao Yin class soon, she says, which I think is a softball question if I've ever heard one. Thank you, Anne.
Yes, we are doing a Tao Yin class. I'm excited. We've been planning this for a while, and it's going to be in early 2021, January, over a weekend. And then we're going to do one weekend a month. So it'll be a 4-month course with, it's going to be robust. We're going to learn Tao Yin stretches, Qigong principles, meridian theory. Tao Yin is really the ancient Qigong practice. Before Qigong was called Qigong, it was called Tao Yin. And it has a long history. And quite frankly, it's where Qigong and yoga sort of meet in my interpretation of these practices. There's a lot more yogic-like stretches, with a caveat that in those stretches, there's flows, there's flowing movements. What I like about that is that you're stretching, but you're also integrating the way your joints, muscles, and tendons work together. So I find it to be extremely functional in its stretching and mobilization techniques. And it's a great integration between Qigong and yoga.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks, Anne. And yeah, I love Tao Yin. I find it to be extremely opening and really kind of covers that stretching side in a different way. And there's a lot of different kinds of work. And then also the core strengthening side. So it really brings some of those things that yoga in the past has brought into my life. So I actually do some form of Tao Yin. I know that a lot of those practices are in the Qigong for the low back workshop, for example. And so me having come to this after a back injury in my 20s, that still occasionally need to make sure I'm paying attention to keeping it mobile and keeping things flowing there. I love Tao Yin. It's pretty big on my list of things that we do. So I do it, some of it fairly often. I'll get down on the floor and do several of those stretches and movements. Okay.
I see one that I'll answer. Yeah. It's a very relevant question from Wendy, and I don't think we've really answered this directly, which I think would be good to talk about. Right. What are the most clearing healing practices if one is positive for COVID with fever, body aches and pains and loss of smell? We have talked about it in terms of prevention. We did that immunity kit as a gift for people. And then I did a few classes early on some exercises to do for the lungs and the respiratory system. And what you want to do if you have a positive test. Now, COVID, like other flus in Chinese medicine, is going to be seen as a pathogenic qi. It's a wind invasion, meaning that this invisible energy has invaded your body, and we want to push it out. We want to clear the invasion. We want to clear the pathogenic qi. And so in Qigong, I would recommend that you do healing sounds. And specifically, once you catch it, I would say emphasize lung vocalized sounds, which is a Z sound with the position of arms up. So you're going to be arms up and you're going to zzz, very strongly, and you're going to do that, I would say, about 20 times, twice a day. That particular sound with that many repetitions will help to clear the pathogenic qi from the respiratory system. And then I would also add in the rest of the healing sounds, just 3 of each as an overall body cleansing, because we don't know exactly where this pathogenic qi invades into what systems. And we definitely want to push it out through the lungs, but we want to also clear some of the other organs that also can get affected by that. So let's start with that. You could do the healing, all the healing sounds, but that one in particular as a way to cleanse and clear it out. And then we would also recommend some Chinese herbs and whatnot. And our Holden Qigong kind of acupuncture herbal specialist, Dr. Lita Drusilla, has a great herbal formulas for that. And if somebody needs her her name, we can make that available so that she can give you herbal recommendations. Yeah, I think that's a great question.
Yep, I agree.
All right. What points help the vagus nerves by Mary? So vagus nerve is usually the nerve that interacts, you know, when we go into stress mode, it seems that the vagus nerve is influencing the mind-body connection very directly. So when we have a lot of mental stress or perceptual stress, this vagus nerve is communicating to the body. So I would say from an acupressure workshop yesterday, the vagus nerve would be helpful to do a lot of the heart meridians. So we want to clear the anxiety and the stress. So I'm going to give you a point combination that will really help anxiety and stress, whether it's emotional stress or mental stress, that will calm down that vagus nerve. So that's going to be pericardium 6, the heart protector on the inside of the wrist, 3 fingers up from the crease of the wrist right here. We did that yesterday. And liver 3 between the big toe and the second toe on the webbing of the foot. So it's on the top of the foot, liver 3, right where those 2 bones come together. And that is a great point combination for the vagus nerve, mental, emotional stress. You can look up those points, or if you're in the workshop, review those points because they're great.
Excellent. I got a few folks. This is a pretty common question, but I feel like we might as well answer it today, which is I'm twisting my knees too much, making them sore. I don't know if there's certain exercises that I'm doing. How can I stop?
Yeah, knees can be sensitive, right? Knees, a lot of people have knee issues. And when we're doing exercises in Qigong, there is twisting exercises. We call them spiraling exercises. Now, spiraling can be very good for your spine, like arm spirals, like knocking on the door of life. There's this swirling energy that allows the body to open, but we got to be careful of the knees. And so here's the recommendation. What I want you to do is shift your weight back towards your heels. So you're not towards the balls of the feet, you're back towards the heels. Stand up a little taller so you're not bending the knees too much. And in fact, if your knees are, if you have issues with the knees, pain, joint issues, arthritis, meniscus, then stand almost straight, not totally straight, but almost straight, and weight in the heels, and then do the exercises and do the exercise. Pay attention to your knees so you're not rotating your body or your spine in a way that affects the knees. So you just maybe modify that rotation so that you're not doing it as big or as strongly as I might be recommending it. You modify it so that it's moving your spine, but it's not irritating the knees. And start from there and then work into any of the exercises a little bit deeper as comfort allows. But standing up a little taller, shifting the weight to the heels usually solves the problem.
Excellent. There are a couple of questions that I'm fielding by typing, a couple of follow-up questions. A few questions are asking about live sessions after other things. So one person's asking, this is Aija is asking, can I do a live session after a 1-hour sauna in my home? Another person was asking after doing their workout, their more strenuous workout, and they do a live session, and they end up very warm and tired. which is probably a good thing overall. But what do you think about it?
So they do a sauna, then they do Qigong, and then they can feel really warm and tired.
Well, these are two different people. One person
Oh, okay.
is asking if they can do a 1 hour sauna and then go do Qigong.
Okay. 1 hour
And the
sauna, and then
person
you
is
do
asking
Qigong.
about,
Fantastic. You're warmed up.
oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, 1 hour sauna is long.
A lot of sauna. I can't do a 1 hour sauna.
You might feel a little fatigued afterwards just because you've heated the body up. Now the dry saunas versus far infrared saunas can make a difference. I might recommend far infrared sauna, but I like saunas. Getting a good sweat. And so if you're going to do a qigong session, if you want to do an hour sauna, I would mix in some cold therapy. So every 20 minutes, go do a cold shower for 30 seconds to a minute. If you can, 3 minutes of cold, and then go back into the sauna, then do another cold. So you might do 3 to 5 cold plunges in there, end with a cold shower, then go do your qigong practice. That sounds fabulous to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the other question, Ben?
Aja has clarified why she can do a 1 hour sauna. She's Finnish.
Oh, there you go.
We know the Finnish have world sauna competitions where people stay in 600-degree heat for a while. They all go in the sauna, and people eventually leave as they turn the heat up and up and up and up until there's one person left in the sauna, and that person wins. So the Finns win saunaing worldwide for sure. So AJ, yeah, you come by it honestly. Good on you. Yes, absolutely. If an hour in the sauna is just a walk in the park for you, please do Qigong afterward. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do some infrared saunas, and then I do what I was saying. I just mix in some of that cold therapy, and then do some qigong, and then it's like your yin and yang has been already activated, and if I do a sauna, I might do less warming up, and just go right into the flows and get more into that meditative aspect of the practice.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question from Christy. Christy, I'm very sorry to hear about you losing your home in the fire. There's been a lot of that going around. You have my absolute, and I know there's a big journey ahead of you to get your life put back together. And she's asking about PTSD and how to reach the nervous system when it's in this high alert, anxious state. What would you recommend for somebody who's going through that kind of PTSD and a lot of high energy nervous system?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people going through some PTSD, from mild cases into fairly severe cases during this pandemic, and that is just prevalent, understandably so. In general, for PTSD, Qigong is fantastic. If you do Qigong, you're going to feel better. Then we can zero in on emotional stress and where it's located, because emotional stress will affect your physical body. And so you might notice, is it affecting your neck and shoulders? How's your digestion? We might ask some clarifying questions. Where do you feel it in your body? And then design routines for that. So I might recommend, just off the top of my head, do the Qigong for Emotional Balance workshop. That was really geared towards PTSD and overall emotional balance. If it's feeling a lot in the chest, we have the anxiety program. I know PTSD, often you're going to feel the tension and the tightness and the squeezing in the chest, and we want it to open up and flow again. So in general, do Qigong. I would say an half hour in the morning, half hour in the evening. Get a consistent practice so that your nervous system remembers what balance and harmony is like. So we're not just in this hijacked state all the time, in fight or flight, in that sympathetic response that is very detrimental to our physiology. So do a consistent practice, and then put in some time and invest in maybe a workshop where you can take a couple hours and just sit down and really focus on a particular routine for emotional balance, like that workshop on either emotional balance or anxiety, some of those kinds of practices. If you really wanted to add more, then add the healing sounds work. That is wonderful work for emotional balance as well.
Excellent. Yep. Those are available and for purchase on the website in our previous workshops section. They're pretty lengthy workshops, but we also do have just Qigong for anxiety as an outdoor routine in the healing series as well. So those are, Anne's asking where to find those. Here's an interesting question. What is speed a factor with Qigong? Is slower better?
You know, there is tremendous power in slowing down. Now, slower, there's a particular kind of cultivation as you slow down. And so slowing down will increase and open you up to more energy and more power. But when people slow down, if they're not ready for that, it can be too much. It can be too slow for their mind. So they start to check out, they start to think about other things, they start to lose interest. And so slower, I often recommend for more seasoned or advanced Qigong practitioners, because they have already a sense of Qi, they feel it, they can stay engaged as the movement slows down. So it is a technique for more advanced practitioners to really slow things down and start cultivating a deeper layer to the energy. So listen to your body. If you can, slow things down even more and see how that feels for you. And it's a nice challenge to see, where does my mind lose interest and where can I stay engaged? But work with that practice. I do more deep work in the slow arena as we get more advanced in our practitioner trainings, like the teacher training, or especially in the Taoist alchemy training, which are live and in person, which we haven't done in a little while, which hopefully we can sometime in 2021.
I'm for that. Yes, let's get back to it if we can.
Yeah.
Here's another one that is perhaps a little bit specific, but I think a lot of people deal with head stuff. So this person, Roxanne, is still having a lot of pain and other symptoms from her head injury. What kind of Qigong's forms might help her recover?
So with head injuries, I think, again, we want to do something systemic because it's the brain, it's the head. This is where the communication is filtering through brain and body. So all Qigong is going to be helpful because moving your body is good for your neurology and your brain. And that said, we did a very specific workshop, Wisdom Qigong, we called it, but it was all around the head. We did some nice circular movements for the head and the brain to stimulate wisdom and this wisdom center, but it is specifically geared for healing, you know, brain injuries, concussions, things like that would be very helpful. So I might recommend doing the Wisdom Qigong. Again, it's in the workshop section. The other one would be the microcosmic orbit, where we're circling the energy in this very unique pathway in the body that moves energy through the brain and connects it to the rest of the body. So those two workshops would be great for brain injury.
Excellent. Thanks for that. And we also have a question, and we have a couple of comparison questions here. I think this one's interesting because I'm not actually familiar with what they're referring to. Christy is asking, could you break down the difference between microcosmic orbit practice / meditation and the small universe practice that's done by Spring Forest Qigong? Have you done that?
There's lots of different variations of microcosmic orbit, and other names of the microcosmic orbit is going to be small heavenly circle, turning the wheel, the warm current meditation. There's different names for the same pathway. So we have this pathway in our bodies. It's the Du and the Ren meridians, and that's a pathway of energy through the spine and a pathway of energy along the front of the body. And different systems will move the energy in various ways, whether we stop along the points, whether we come up the back and down the front, or whether we go up the front, down the back. There's reasons to move energy in particular ways, and teachers will often teach it their particular style. And so as I teach microcosmic orbit in the workshop, I give you a few different styles from different teachers, a Montauk Chia style, a Yang Jwing Ming style. and some other styles that I've learned along the way. And you get to see, oh, this particular style does it more in a standing Qigong set. This particular style does it in a breathing exercise as a seated meditation. And by doing a few different ways, you can actually pave the energy pathway a little stronger by doing it, let's say, as a movement practice with Qigong, and then as a seated meditation. You learn to understand that pathway in deeper, more nuanced ways. And so the spring forest variation is just another way, another nuance of that same meditation. And they are all good. It's just important to maybe practice a few different styles so that you can feel and experience what works best for you. And that's what I tried to do in that microcosmic orbit workshop, is give those variations so practitioners could really understand the principle behind the practice.
Excellent. You mentioned Yongdwing Ming, and somebody had asked about embryonic breathing.
Oh, right.
Who Lori learned.
Embryonic breathing, what a cool breathing practice.
Mm-hmm.
Now in utero, the embryo in utero, interestingly enough, breathes or goes through the motions of breathing. It's almost like breath practice. And so in Taoist practice, often embryonic breathing will be a breath without breath. And it's sometimes taught as a move, like you inhale and then move the abdomen in and out as a way to pump or bellows like fanning a fire, the energy through the body. So there might be variations of embryonic breathing where you hold the breath and then move the abdomen in and out. And it's just a great practice. And it's another practice with many variations. And what I love about Yongdwing Ming is that he's very traditional. He'll translate Taoist texts and give practices in a very traditional way. I've studied a lot with Yongdwing Ming. We've even hosted him at the Qi Center back in the day. And yeah, he's just a great teacher, and I use and reference his work quite frequently. And what I like to do with certain practices is to give a Mantak Chia and a Yongdwing Ming comparison to two practices, because they're often the same practice done from a different perspective that lead the energy in a little bit different way. And I look at it as a bit of cross training. It's if you're an athlete, sometimes it's good to do it one way and then you cross train and get another variation to make your body stronger. And I find that to be true even with energy work, is a little bit of cross training. And so I like to give people examples and let them feel different methods in and through their own bodies.
Excellent. The time has come, I believe. I'm hoping that Zach has some questions from Facebook. And I believe the time has come to have Zach come over and ask those. And it looks like he just arrived. So, Zach, Are you ready for us? Take it away.
We've got a couple questions over from Facebook today. Kathy's going to be the first one. I'm in my 60s, but when I was in my 20s, my obstetrician said that my pelvic tips back and later in my life may have trouble with this. And indeed that I do now. I have sciatica and back pain. How do I correct my posture to relieve this? And is this a posture problem?
Yeah, often that can be a posture problem, and it can be. So there's an underlying condition, something happening in the back, and you might look at other things in your life. Are you sitting too long? Are you reading in bed? Are you watching TV in particular postures? And these can all exacerbate that condition. Sometimes when you then do Qigong, the Qi moves to where you need it, and we start to feel our aches and pains a little more when we do the practice, because what is happening is now the Qi is moving to the areas you need it, and we notice it more, but it is your body starting to heal. Go gentle, go easy, and especially go easy on the stretches and the warm-ups that we usually do towards the beginning of class. Put extra time and emphasize the flows. And if you're looking at, let's say, low back, we're going to want to do flows that are more in alignment with kidneys, and the kidneys control the lower back. So I would say emphasize Qigong flows that go to the kidney meridian. But in general, flows will help the nervous system, help the spine, and do the warm-ups and the stretches just nice and easy. And that'll get good circulation moving into the spine. And then do the flows maybe a little bit longer in the beginning while your body is still in that healing process.
Wonderful. And Claire's wondering if you recommend practicing Qigong with music, and if so, what kind of music?
Oh, that's a good question. And this is personal preference. Sometimes it's really nice to do Qigong without music. Often like ambient music is really nice. We played Dean Evanson's on our programs. I think it was called The Tao of Healing. And that's a really nice ambient music to play during Qigong. That being said, you can do a variety of things. I know people play, their favorite jazz or their favorite classical. One time I was teaching Qigong in Poughkeepsie, New York, and we were outside and the construction workers were playing like classic rock. And Phil Collins, I could hear it coming in the night, was on while we were doing flows. And I was like, wow, this really sets the mood. So whatever fits the mood of your particular day. Remember, music is energy, it's vibration. And if it can enhance what you're doing, use it. And if you'd like to do it in silence, do that too.
Perfect. And our last question from Facebook today, do you have any advice for chronic fatigue syndrome and using Qigong to help out with it?
Yes, chronic fatigue is interesting because could be a variety of sources. So whether it's chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, certain viruses that might have caused the fatigue in the body, adrenal fatigue, Qigong helps with all of these. And what we want to do is start with something simple and effective. And these breathing practices and learning how to breathe slower and deeper to bring more Qi in, doing some Qi massage to activate and circulate the energy can do wonders for chronic fatigue. I did some work with a chronic fatigue group and I didn't realize, this was in my early 20s, just how debilitating chronic fatigue can be. In fact, this group of people, when I came in, I said, okay, let's stand up. And they were like, no, we can't stand up and do exercise. It's just way too much. And I was like, oh my goodness. They were so fatigued, they couldn't get off the couch. So we started with breath work, pressure points, some of the acupressure that we did in the workshop yesterday, and slowly just built the Qi up to the point where we could do breathing practices and some Qi massage, then stand up for 5 minutes and then stand up and do 10 minutes. So just keep building your energy. Start with breathing and start with some slow movement, maybe seated Qigong exercises. Build the energy, build the energy. I like the 5-element energy flow for chronic fatigue because it gets all the organs. If you can do a standing practice for 30 minutes, start with the 5-element energy flow as a way to nourish your body's energy system.
Perfect. And that should wrap it up for questions from Facebook.
Okay. Well, today we have a little more time for our in-person attendees, which is great. So I see a few folks have already raised their hands. I'm actually going to lower them just to make sure that you're actually still there, because we've had a few times in the past somebody wandered off and their hand was up. So I'm lowering them, but I see you people have already raised them, so feel free to raise them again. And if you'd like to come on camera and ask Lee a question directly, you could go down to the participants button. That's going to bring up a list of everybody. And at the bottom of that list is a raise hand button. And Zach will put those instructions in the chat as well. There we go. People are filtering back in. That's great. And there we go. Zach's put the instructions in the chat. So if you didn't quite follow how to raise your hand or you haven't done it before here in Zoom, feel free to jump in the chat and you can see those instructions. And we're going to go ahead and get started by bringing Jess up. Jess, you are up. And she'll be in here in just a moment. See some people raising and lowering their hands. Here we are. Jess is in. And we can see you. And now we can hear you. Go right ahead.
Hello, are you listening to me?
Sure are.
Hey, excellent. Lee, I got a birthday present of the 30-day Qigong, and it's just been wonderful.
It's excellent.
And my lady friend, we just started a little walk jog routine, and she just hurt her knee, kind of like the right. She's got on the inside of her right knee, kind of a runner's knee thing. She can hobbling around. Do you have a couple of suggestions for that?
Okay, let's see. For knee injuries, we did the suggestions for what to do, standing back towards the heel, standing up a little taller. Also do some pressure points and get some energy circulating into the knee. So the points to use, spleen 9, gallbladder 34 as the combination for the knees. And you can look those up, spleen 9, gallbladder 34. We did those in acupressure yesterday.
Spleen 9, gallbladder.
GB 34.
Yeah,
excellent.
Press and wiggle on those points, and you can massage her knees for her too.
Yes.
The other thing that's good for the knees is in the Qigong for healthy joints, we have a little knee routine if you guys wanted to integrate some of that. There's like 5 minutes of some knee circles, some tapping on both sides of the knees. In general, Qigong is great for rehabilitating the knees because you're standing in a kind of a horse stance. So your knees and your quads and your ligaments are all going to get stronger. Just be careful on twisting movements, careful on wide leg movements when we're lunging back and forth. Just modify those to shorter stance and just build up the strength, increase the circulation. You might alternate like some heat as a way to flush circulation in and through.
Yeah, we tried ice. Ice has been good.
How do you feel about acupuncture? Like getting the acupuncture?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you so much. I mean, it's been amazing. And I'm telling my students, I have a student who is recovering from stroke. She's an 8th grader. So I'm just so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been referring you.
We have been.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate that. Let's spread the
we live in Burlingame, so we're kind of close, and we love seeing the ocean where you are.
Oh, good. Well, when it's all finished up, come out for a live workshop at some point.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Great to meet you.
You too.
Thanks, Jess, and Jess's unnamed lady friend. That was great. I love it when we get the full couple experience.
Yeah,
great. Kim, you're up next. And Kim will be rejoining in just a moment. Yeah, those knees are tricky, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. It is the thing, because Qigong is a practice where we're often standing. And so you have, strengthening of the legs. So you just got to be a little careful if you have pre-existing conditions, knee injuries, just modify, get the weight back into the heels, do those pressure points and have happy knees.
Have happy knees. Hi, Kim. Do you have happy knees?
Hi. Well, I actually have a knee issue too, so that was helpful. But my question today is about my shoulder. I have had shoulder pain for a while, and I feel like perhaps since I've started back doing Qigong for the last maybe 8 months or so, that it's getting a little bit worse. And I'm concerned. So I think what's happening, I don't always have perfect posture. So that's probably contributing to it. But I also think that I just tend to hold my shoulder up. So I'm trying to retrain myself to just relax. So that's one piece. But what I'm wondering is if you just have any advice about how to figure out what is exacerbating it, whether the Qigong is certain movements of the Qigong are bothering it. I notice when I put my hand behind my back, like to unzip a skirt or something, it hurts. I don't have as much mobility there. And I'm wondering about things where I'm raising my arms over my head, like the purging that we did in the acupressure workshop yesterday. Right. It feels so good at the time, but then I have pain later, and I'm not sure if that's because of it or not. So I'm just wondering if you have any suggestions for maybe doing the detective work around that, and any suggestions about rehabilitation.
Okay. Then, knees and shoulders are often the joints that have a lot of problems, hips as well, but shoulders are the most flexible joint in the body. I mean, we could do this, we could do that. And you have good range of motion. I could just tell that you don't have frozen shoulder. Right. Shoulders in particular, we have to be careful, because here's the thing: we want to move the shoulder, but we don't want to irritate whatever inflammation is going on, whether it's a tendonitis or a joint inflammation? Is it the labrum? Is it the rotator cuff? It's a complicated joint. So we want circulation to get in there, and we want to make sure to keep moving. And it's extremely important to move the shoulder joint so it doesn't freeze up, because if we have pain, we stop moving it, then we create a worse problem for our shoulder. So keep moving it. Let me show you an extra pressure point. This point right here is for the shoulders, small intestine 3.
Okay.
So massage that point right here. Anybody who wants a little upper back, neck, and shoulder, it's right there just above the pinky finger. It is called the master point of the upper back, neck, and shoulder. And so that's a good one to massage. Then I would say that the shoulder exercise where we're doing this, the swirling of the shoulder in the Qigong, where there's a weight shift back and forth, and we swirl the energy through the shoulder joint. That's a really nice exercise to focus on because it mobilizes the joint. It's usually not irritating anything. And it helps with just that mobilization and bringing good circulation there. Then just pay attention, you know, maybe modify some of these ones or do them a little slower. And there's, when you lift the arm up, is there any irritation when I lift the arm up? Maybe there's there's maybe a slight thing. So then go to here instead of all the way up here. So just start to do a little inner detective work on where does it start to irritate. Then also use some body work, you know, get some massage therapy, acupuncture, and get lined up, because you are not alone in wearing your shoulders as earrings. You know, this is just what people do. You know, these muscles with stress or life and stuff, we just tighten up those muscles. And so as you go through the day, just pay attention to relax, maybe take a deep breath, put some good energy on the upper back, neck, and shoulders. Try to get things back, especially if you're on the computer doing this. Take some breaks where you get the shoulders back in alignment with the spine. And what else? We have the upper back, neck, and upper back and neck program would be good, probably for you, just to stretch all these muscles out through the shoulder. Okay.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've had some shoulder issues myself, and my issues were knocking on the door of life and putting my arms behind my back for the neck stretches. I just kind of modified those and stopped using that hand to knock. I just kind of knock on my left hip. And then for the neck stretches, I would have the right hand kind of in the right spot, you know, fingers pointing down, and then the other hand just kind of like down where it could go. And slowly but surely it found its way up over the course of several weeks. That was very helpful. But yeah, it's just, so if, like Lee said, like every time it's different. So if the up is problem, for me, up wasn't a problem unless I was bent, and then up was a problem. Up was I couldn't do this, but I could do this, no problem. So, you know, play around.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we can do.
Will do.
All right. Good luck, Kim.
Thank you.
Hey, Ben, I just saw a question where I don't have an answer to this question.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I usually have an answer, a Qigong recommendation. Somebody asked, I have deep pockets between my gums and teeth. Is there anything I could do for that issue? And I don't have a Qigong exercise for gums and teeth and filling up those pockets. But for teeth issues, large intestine 4, that pressure point is good. And so I might recommend large intestine 4 and microcosmic orbit to bring energy through there. And why don't you try it and see, and then let us know if that helps with the deep pockets in the gums issue. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable, right?
I think that's a great idea. Let's try it. Why not? Probably also good to do whatever your dentist says.
That's true too, right? We work in conjunction with other professionals.
Yes, exactly. Next up is Bina. And Bina's on Bina's way in. And Bina has arrived. Let me get the magic buttons here. Okay, Bina, you're in here, but we need you to hit some buttons. There we are. There's one. And there's the other one. We can hear you. Hi, Dina.
Thank you so much for taking my question. I'm really happy. I did your 5 days course and it was very powerful for me. I'm used to doing Tai Chi, and like due to COVID, I was stuck for 7 months, so a lot of depression and all, but I'm feeling better. My question is that because as we are bundle of energy, so that mental illnesses can be cured by Qigong?
Oh, I mean, when we look at we look at the energy of what a mental illness is, we're going to look at, in Chinese medicine and say, oh, that's the lungs, qi is deficient. Now, when the energy becomes balanced, the problem goes away. And your body already, your mind-body system has amazing healing capabilities. And when we're looking at an emotion or a mental emotional issue, let's look at what is it trying to tell us. So if we're feeling depressed or if we're feeling anxious, in the same way, pain in our bodies is talking to us about what's going on. The problem will relieve itself when we listen in, and it often will. And so we become our own best healers and our own best detectives of what's going on within us. And we look deeper than the surface. So we're not just looking at the emotion itself. Let's look at the root. What's going on? What do I need? What's my body trying to tell me? What's an exercise and a practice? What's the spiritual message here? So we can do a lot of things. And then all of a sudden, and it works like magic, the problem or the symptom goes away because we've addressed the root cause. And that is healing. Healing is holistic. It's an integrated perspective of who we are. We're not just this emotion. We're not just this thought. We're not just this body. We're an integration of all of that. And when we feel integrated and when we feel whole, the problem is over there and we're over here. I'm not the problem. I'm not that emotion, but now I can work on resolving it. I can listen to that issue like I'm listening to a good friend. I can learn from it. I can cultivate wisdom. So there's a whole process around it. And so we can zero in routines, Qigong for depression, and really help with that. But really, it's a holistic global approach to healing that you are your own best healer. And it's an exciting journey when we feel empowered to do that.
No, because I feel that Qigong is a very spiritual exercise. It is not only for body, it is totally healing. Like that's what I feel. So there is somebody who's suffering a lot. And I keep telling them, but it's very difficult to explain somebody that we are a bundle of energies. We are not this, we are not that, we are not body, we are not mind.
Believe me, I know. I've been trying to do it for 30 years. So we just keep explaining it. And you know what? Have them try it if they are willing to try maybe 7 minutes, that 30-day challenge, or hey, just try this with me for 5 or 10 minutes and see if you feel something. That it never hurts trying something if they're willing, and see, hey, maybe you're going to feel better. Maybe this is going to resonate with you. And let's do something for 5 minutes, 5 days in a row and see if it makes a difference. Let's do something 10 minutes. Let's do something for an hour. And, when people are willing to try, often things change, because Qigong works better when you do it. And it doesn't work so well if you don't do it.
I understand. And I'm very, very thankful to you and your help to humanity at large. I never knew that whole over the world is connected to this group. I was very happy to be part of those.
Happy to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye, Bina. Have a good one.
Bye. Thank you.
And now we've got Ed. Ed is hanging out in the green room, ready to come on stage. And here comes Ed. Hi, Ed. Ed's finding the buttons. Found one. One more. We just need the mute button. There we go. Now we can hear you. Nice work.
Excellent. This may have been answered, but I started having serious problems when I was 13. I went over a cliff on a machine and got crushed underneath it. So I have one leg that's amputated high. The other one is partially paralyzed. On that leg that I've stood on most of my life, I've had many operations including 2 total hip operations. When I had this last one, I put it off as long as I could on each time, but the second total hip operation was about, I'm guessing about 2 years ago. A few months after I had it, I bent over far too long or far too much to kill a spider, and it popped the hip out. So I tried to put it back in myself, and then I called the doctor's office, and she said, you need to go to the emergency room. And so I called them, and I couldn't get, I'll try to shorten this. Anyways, they came to get me in about an hour. When they put it back in, either my trying or their trying, it took 2 doctors and a nurse to get it back in. But they chipped some bone in there, which showed up on an x-ray following it. For whatever reason, whether it's, well, it actually started to hurt when I would try to stand up. And I thought it might be those bone chips that were cutting in. Now, the resulting effect is that I have not tried to stand for probably a year. And part of it, I guess, is I have to have some kind of internal thing where I get more energy and able to do small things in the morning, but also a willingness to try to stand up with a walker.
Yeah. Ed, can I give you a recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. So, sorry to hear about that. That sounds like a series of tragedies. Oh, but here's some good news. We have what I want you to do is the Qigong seated routine. Start with the seated routine. Get some energy built up into your body. Do that for a week or 2. And then what I want you to do is do the Qigong for better breathing. Do that seated, but occasionally if you want to start to try to stand up with the walker and do some breathing exercises just for a couple minutes, just get up, get your energy up first with the seated. Do the seated practice, do the better breathing seated, and then, you know, occasionally try the practice standing up slowly and then adding more time standing up minute by minute, how you feel, because as your energy builds up, all of a sudden you're going to feel stronger in your body. But do that practice, the seated practice, for a couple of weeks first, then start in on the better breathing practice, still seated, but occasionally stepping up and building some energy in your body. And, you know, we're thinking about you. Sorry that you had to go through such a challenging time, but get your Qi going while you're seated.
Okay, sounds good. Somebody just popped up a thing on my screen where I could click onto that. It went away. I'm guessing if I go to your site, I'll find it. Is there a simpler way to get to?
That is correct. You go to Holden Qigong and just type in the search seated routine and it'll come up. And I bet they're going to put it back into your little feed there.
We'll put it back in, but also we don't really have a search. So go to the learning series and look for Qigong, the seated workout. When you get to our site, products, learning series, Qigong, the seated workout. And Zach just put that back in the chat room. So
thank you.
You're welcome, Ed.
Have a good one, guys.
You too. Take care, man. Mr. Holden, it's time
to wrap things up. Put a bow on this Qi package, huh?
Pour myself a little more tea, and we can send people on their way. What a great Q&A, and what a great time today. I really enjoyed it.
That was wonderful. Thanks everybody for your energy and your questions. These are always wonderful, inspiring discussions. And you know, when we have questions, usually a lot of other people have similar questions, and we create a nice little group vortex of energy and a community where we feel supported and we all speak a similar language. We're talking about Qi, and Qi is the communication between your mind and your body and your emotions and your emotions and your spirit. It's the way we communicate with each other. It's also the way we communicate to the world around us. And so as we open up our energy, we are communicating a level of energy of health and compassion and kindness and ways in which we can integrate instead of separate. And I think that is what healing is. When we want to bring healing into ourselves, we integrate and we create wholeness. And we want to bring healing into the world, we integrate, we create wholeness. And that helps us to create the energy of kindness and compassion. So let's just toast to integration, to wholeness, to communicating with Qi, and to feeling our deep, heartfelt compassion for ourselves and for each other.
Beautiful.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, thank you, everybody. We will be back with another Tea with Lee the day before Thanksgiving, Wednesday morning. So see you in a couple weeks. See some of you in class. See some of you on the web. And thank you for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day.